in by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner, gets up center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Ilya able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal.
And the fans want one. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Forever Mighty podcast. It's Patrick, Jason, and Eddie tonight. Weird timing, but screw it. It's the holiday between the holidays, what I like to say, because it's no one does anything during this week, dude.
It's perfect
right?
timing because it's after a 5-point game from Trevor Zegras.
That too. I mean, a lot of people are saying he's the best guy in the tournament. I think that they're probably right, and I'm not even trying to be biased about that, but he's insane. That kid is absolutely tearing it up right now.
Yeah, he's a blast to watch. You know, even if he doesn't score or get a assist on anything, it's just fun to watch what he's thinking about and how he's doing things. And he's even when he receives a pass, he's almost passing it before he gets it again. Like he's already thinking a couple of steps ahead, and that's always fun to watch.
I mean, we might as well just start with that because it's the freshest thing in everybody's mind. Yeah,
we should talk about this.
In my opinion, he is the best player at the tournament. I don't.
And can we, for the folks at home, you're Canadian, right?
Now, I was gonna.
Allegedly.
And what team does Trevor Zegras play for?
I get it.
Okay, so he's
So
he's
he'll
American.
get a nice silver medal and everything's said and done, and that's okay. Now, I was gonna say, like, if Kirby Dach was at this tournament, it would be close because.
I mean, he was.
He got hurt. Did you see that picture of his wrist? It was bad. It was bad.
Yes, I threw it.
He's out 4 to 5 months now. Seriously, if he was here, I think it would be close. But right now, like nobody is at the same level as Zegras is in terms of how important he is to his team. Like, yeah, if he wasn't there, the U.S. would still be a great team. But a 4-point night, the other night against Austria, 2 goals, 2 assists. He had a goal against Russia, 2 goals, 3 assists. Could have been, a hat trick, if not 7 or 8 points tonight against the Czech Republic. He is literally the number one guy for Team USA at this tournament. Pretty much everybody. I mean, like just the stuff he does. It's not even like he's picking up garbage points. He's picking up a bunch of secondary assists, and he's scoring ugly goals. Like 3 of his goals were snipes. 2 of them today were one-timers after he set up the play for both of them. And his assists are nice too. Like his assist to Caulfield was what would have been a 2-line pass back in the day, right from his own blue line, a home run pass to Caulfield, who could win in on a breakaway and scored. Like he is just like last year, where he put up 9 assists, and they were all pretty much beautiful plays. He's doing it in style again.
Yeah, and they were talking a lot too about more of the Caulfield and things like that. And they thought he was going to kind of be the stud because that was kind of the guy from last year a little bit, and a lot of the other ones. But then just slowly but surely, it's amazing once you start scoring goals. And that's who they kind of focus on a little bit more. They focus a little bit on Zegras and all his 9 assists in the last tournament. But once you start putting the puck in the net, then they care a little bit more. And they were even saying that he's like you said, Ed. He's taking over the team, and that's kind of. It runs all through him, any power play. He's on the top line where he started on the 4th line last year. So it's absolutely fun to watch.
That Saturday night game, I believe against Austria, right?
Yeah.
Where he goes in to go short side high and the goalie misses, gets the puck back, circles back around. And he does that little hip pivot at the top of the circle, throws the defender, and then he just roofs it. It seemed like it happened within a matter of like 20 seconds or so. But that was the prettiest one, I thought. And then he was so cocky to even celebrate it. Just goes against the glass like it was nothing. But that was an absolute snipe. I mean, the guy, everyone here is so excited, right, in Southern California to get him in a duck sweater and all to see what he can do. But, as much as we're excited about it, we can't overlook the fact that it is the World Juniors and not the NHL. But damn, this kid is scary good, at least at this level. Hopefully that translates over to the NHL level, which I'm sure it will. It just hopefully to the capacity of what we're seeing here.
He's not short on confidence. You talk about that goal the one you're talking about where he kind of lobbed it over the Austrian goaltender's shoulder. He tried that move 30 seconds earlier. Saw the opening, missed it, had the confidence to get the puck back in the same spot and not miss this time and do it again. Like, he pulled the exact same move out he tried 30 seconds earlier because he knew that he was leaving that side open, and went back and did it again. The other goal he had in that game was another snipe too, wired the puck past the netminder, picked up 2 assists. I mean, like we said last tournament, he showed what we knew he was, a great playmaker, an exceptional passer, and he comes in a year later, and this is the type of year where if you're going to be one of the best players, not just at this tournament, but best young players in hockey, you have to dominate. And he's done that. I mean, he scored 5 goals. He's leading the entire tournament in goals. And this is a guy that was criticized for not shooting the puck enough. Well, he's doing it now, and he's putting it in the back of the net. There's really not much you can fault. And the big thing for me, too, is he looks bigger. He looks stronger. Last year, he was a wiry, 170-pound kid. He's probably still around 175, 180 pounds. He just looks like a bigger player, a more complete player than he was last year.
Yeah, he's almost too good for the tournament. Like, he's kind of at that level where, all right, he's a ringer now. Let's move him on and get some, other talent. He's good enough to go to your AHLs or even your NHLs. Do you think he could crack the Ducks lineup this early on?
He can get a chance. I mean, he has to at this point.
Yeah.
Now he'll be at training camp, albeit a few days late, because he's at the World Juniors, and I think he still has to quarantine for 7 days, so I'm not even really sure when he's going to be able to show up. Same goes for Jamie Drysdale. But I would at least think the 9-game tryout has now been reduced to a 6-game trial with the new CBA.
He's definitely going to get every single one of those games.
Yeah, he'll have a chance to prove himself. And like we just said, he's not short on confidence. He's going to come in there flying. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him earn a roster spot the way he's playing. Like, I know we're biased and we're Ducks fans, but there's a lot of people out there saying that not only is he the best player at this tournament, he's top 5 prospect in the entire NHL at this point. And we're talking about Lafreniere, people saying he can jump into the NHL and the Rangers lineup and score 60 points in a full season, or 40 in a shortened season. I don't see why Zegras couldn't, other than just not being able to adapt to the size and speed of the NHL game. But the way he plays, you feel like it won't matter. He should be able to jump in and contribute immediately.
The only negative thing I heard about him so far is I forget what the name of the commentator was. He said he reminded him of a young Thomas Plekanec. And I was like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's far from...
How so? Like, how so? Did he elaborate, or that's what he reminded him of?
Yeah.
I guess like the way he was playing, or I think it was that guy Starman was his last name. Was it him that said it? I'm trying to remember who said he reminds him of a young Thomas Plekanec. But I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, Thomas Plekanec doesn't really strike me as somebody who's dazzling to watch and is a highlight reel. It's just a completely different player in my opinion.
That's a hot take from Starman.
If anything, I mean, he looks like the player he's trying to idolize in Patrick Kane. Like, I know it's not a like-for-like comparison, but you look at the way he dominates the game, creatively, his skill set, the fact that, he's now shooting the puck more, and he has a great shot. He's not obviously a like-for-like comparison to Patrick Kane, but I think it's pretty close in terms of the way he's been able to take over a game, not just with his playmaking ability, but with his goal-scoring ability. Now, does that mean he's going to jump into the NHL and put up a point per game right off the bat? No. Patrick Kane was a completely different animal coming out of junior than Trevor Zegras is. But, whether it's at left wing or center, Dave asked that question in the chat where he plays. I think it's likely on the wing. If he does make the NHL roster this year, he'll make an impact. We've already seen that he has the confidence to do so. So, I think he at least gets that 6-game tryout, and then the rest is up to him at that point. If he plays, as well as we think he can, he'll give the Ducks coaching staff no choice but to leave him on the roster at that point.
Yeah, we'll see. Or it'll be kind of like a Comtois thing, where kind of good, kind of not, and then kind of had to bury it a little bit. Or send him back to his junior team, right?
Don't damper my hopes. Don't put me down. I'm expecting him to come in and be exceptional. He just had a 5-point game. Let me revel in it for a little bit.
All right.
And let the Canadian, be stoked for the Americans for once.
Keep
right?
professing your love for America. I got it.
I will. As long as it's Trevor Zegras, I will.
Jimmy and I were already talking that we're going to kidnap you and your family and move you guys to California. You'd be happier in America anyway.
Would I?
Well, we decided for you.
Oh,
so
okay.
of course
So
it
it's-
makes sense. I mean, you're sitting right behind me, as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to be here today.
Yeah.
We should all just
Just
show
gonna
up like
do
that. Just play a recording of an old show. Nobody would
Well,
know.
that'd be terrible.
Who would know?
I want that picture of Eddie with the line through his mouth, and then we just make it move like the South Park Canadians do. So every time he talks, it has to move up and down.
Like Terrence and Phillip.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Play it one of my old rants from another show, and nobody will know the difference. All right, we got to wrap up the World Juniors here. I don't want to say wrap up like nobody else is doing well, but the way Trevor Zegras is playing, it kind of overshadows the rest of the Ducks prospects here. Colangelo, Lacombe, and Thrun have been pretty good. I think Thrun's probably been the best of three. His pass on Trevor Zegras' goal was the reason that Zegras was able to score that goal. He just faked the shot and found him wide open for the slap shot. So he's been pretty good. He's playing a little bit of a reduced role. Lacombe missed out on the Austria game. And then he came back in as the seventh defenseman today, so he hasn't been playing too much. And Colangelo's been playing a bottom six role, but I mean he's looked pretty good. None of these guys are. I don't think we expect any of those guys to kind of jump out off the page like Trevor Zegras did and kind of wow people, but they're the role players on Team USA, and I think they've been doing their job well. Colangelo reminds me a little bit of when Max Jones played for Team USA at the World Juniors, where he wasn't relied upon offensively to get things done. He was the physical, kind of forechecking, hard-pressing player for their team, so that's kind of the role Colangelo has filled throughout this tournament. Drysdale and Team Canada are playing right now, and I think from what we've seen from Drysdale, I'm not sure if you guys have seen any of the Team Canada games. I know you're avoiding watching anything Team Canada lately, but Drysdale's been kind of more of a two-way presence for Team Canada. I mean, he has that ability, but it's been more, Bowen Byram and others who've taken on the offensive role. So I hope if Canada goes far, which they probably will, that Drysdale turns it on a couple games and we can kind of start talking about him a little bit. And then Sundsvik is the last one. With Sweden missing a bunch of their players, he jumped in and played first-line center for Sweden in their last game, and was playing between Alexander Holtz and Lucas Raymond, which is not a spot I expected him to play in, but he scored in that game, I think, on the power play, which is another spot I didn't expect him to be playing on. But you look at the teams that are kind of decimated by COVID right now, it kind of makes sense. So it's been a pretty good showing for Ducks prospects, but obviously, talk of the tournament right now is Trevor Zegras.
Yeah, and then doesn't Sweden and the U.S. play? They have the next game, I think, on Thursday.
Big test for Zegras.
That'll be huge, because if America wins, that'll be the first team that's beaten Sweden in the prelims since Kennedy was president.
Yeah, 13
They had that stat.
years or something like that. 54 games in a row for Team Sweden.
Straight games. Yeah, they've won in the prelims.
That's insane.
That is
unreal.
insane.
I think the next highest was Canada it was like 20 games between 08 and 2012 or something. And then that ended. 54 games in a row over 13 years of tournament play that they have not lost a game in the round robin, but I think they've only won like one or two gold medals across that span.
Yeah. Yeah. They can't make it.
Canada,
The one thing I want to mention before we move on from the World Juniors, Elite Prospects tweeted out where Trevor Zegras is in the all-time points per game totals. He's in the top 10 now with 2.375 points per game across his entire career in the World Juniors. He has 5 goals and 14 assists for 19 points in 8 games at the World Juniors. The one thing I want to mention is the 1991, 92, and 93 Team Sweden must have been unreal. I don't know if they won the gold medal every year, but Peter Forsberg and Marcus Naslund were on that team. Peter Forsberg had 42 points in 14 games. He was scoring at 3 points per game across a 3-year span, and also had 38 penalty minutes as well.
Of course.
And Marcus Naslund had 34 points and 21 goals in 14 games and 45 penalty minutes. Like, what an unreal team. Those guys were playing together clearly. And just absolutely dominated. And then last point on Zegras too, he's tied Doug Waite's total for the most points by an American in World Juniors history. So if he picks up one more point in any fashion, he'll be at 20, which beats Doug Waite. So, I mean, I fully expect Zegras to finish this tournament with at least another 5 or 6 points if they move past the first knockout round. So, good company for him to be in there. I think Yager's in there too. Wayner's in there with Wayne Gretzky.
It's meant like
Is
Wayne.
that what they call him in Canada?
Yeah,
Wayner. Wayne Simmons.
I'm
Wayner,
definitely not the only person who's called Wayne Gretzky Wayner. I think
I would have called him Gretz.
Yeah, Gretz is
that's
one.
Just
Great one.
Yeah.
Maybe have a little bit more respect than calling him Wayner.
Wayner? Nah, you can call him Wayner.
Disrespectful.
I knew right when I said it that was going to be an issue. I knew it was going to be an
You
issue.
can't do that around us.
It's got to. What is it? What do you prefer? If it's Gretzky, are you saying Gretz? You saying
Gretz.
Gretz?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It's always a last name thing, isn't it?
Dave said rain shits.
Oh, Ranishitz,
Ranishitz.
the Austrian goalie.
Oh, that's the Austrian goalie. Okay.
Yeah, Ranishitz. They kept saying it.
Damn,
And Dave was at my house laughing every time that he made a save. And he would try not to laugh and try to look like he's not 22, but every single time. And
All right.
there was 70 shots. So.
Oh yeah. What the U.S. finished that game with 70 plus shots or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a pretty bad tournament for that. Some pretty big blowouts in terms of 60 plus to 16 shots in a few of these games. So
Happens.
let's move on to the Ducks release their, well, I guess everybody, but the Ducks released their 2020-2021 schedule. I still don't know why it's called the 2020-21 season. It's just happening in 2021. But we'll leave
Initial
that.
thoughts before we break into it for a
Yeah.
few minutes. Thumbs up or thumbs down on how this kind of panned out.
What? The season?
Overall,
No, no one likes it. We're going to play and we're happy about it. But the way the scheduling is.
I mean, I think I remember we talked, I don't know if it was Patreon or one of our last shows here, we talked about kind of best case scenarios for the schedule, and it would be kind of like a Major League Baseball type scenario. I think that's kind of what we ended up with here, right? Pretty much it's you face a team 2 or 3 times per little 2-game, 3-game stretch there. I think I said there's 12 2-game series on the road and 14 2-game series at home. So it's not quite as many games in a row as MLB is, but pretty much the same. I know that they have a 5-game stretch against LA later on in the season, and that has a distinctly MLB feel to it. But I mean, I think this is the best they could do.
I'm really excited for, actually. And it sucks that it's all the way at the end of the season.
I mean, but at that point, you might be able to have
I'm
fans,
extremely
though.
excited.
Like that, I think that's what they're hoping for.
It's not happening, man.
not in California, but yeah.
Our governor just said we're on lockdown indefinitely, I think is what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the hope, though, of having those 4 games that late is that maybe, just maybe, or 5 games, sorry, that you could do that. Imagine 5 straight games over a kind of 2-week span, all 5 of them outdoors at the LA Galaxy Stadium. That would be unreal.
How cool would it be, and it's not going to happen, if the Ducks and Kings were vying for a playoff spot
Yeah,
and they had to play 5 games? That would be maybe the nastiest hockey we've seen as Ducks fans in a long time.
Well, even if you consider them being towards the bottom of the division, but not necessarily maybe in the cellar, and then you got 5 straight games against a team, and then you can kind of climb up, especially if one of those teams is pretty bad.
yeah.
I mean, that's going to have a playoff feel for me. I feel like you do 5 of those games, and especially if someone gets injured or something like that, or, yeah, like Pat says, the stakes are a little bit higher than who's playing for last, then I can see that being just so much fun to watch. Can't do it in person, but just to even watch at any.
We'll have to get together for those games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Games 3, 4, and 3, 4, and 5 are going to be unreal. And they're just going to get chippier as they go.
Hope so.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, Trevor Zegras is still playing at that point. See a little bit of that rivalry come out. So they open with 2 games in Vegas, Thursday, January 14th, and Saturday, January 16th. So 2 games on the road. They got 8 back-to-backs across the entire season, which honestly isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Then we already mentioned the 5 straight games against LA from April 20th to May 1st, and the 12 2-game series on the road and the 14 2-game series at home. Not a bad schedule. We already discussed on the last show the kind of reworked division. So we're playing Minnesota a few times, St. Louis a few times, Colorado, San Jose, of course, Arizona I think is also in there, right? So It's I mean, listen, it's the best they could do. I think it will end up turning out pretty good in terms of, the competition. The first few games are going to be a little bit rough, but once you start playing this team for like the 5th or 6th time of the season, I think that's when you're going to get into some of these chippy games, especially because like you guys already said, you're seeing these guys so often, and these points mean a lot because you're really only competing with the guys in your division. You're not playing anybody outside your division. You're going to start hating these guys after, the 4th or 5th game.
Yeah.
I hope so, man. I miss that sort of. I don't want it to go like full old time hockey because that's some dangerous shit. But I don't want it to be so much of like where there's no passion, where they don't care if somebody gets hit or the stakes. Even if the stakes aren't high, like you're just sick of seeing that guy's face in the face-off circle every single night. Like I want it to be in between. We don't need bench clearing brawls, although I wouldn't object.
Yeah.
But I just want to see some nastiness in this season. I think that this is a real opportunity. Remember when it was at NBC did Rivalry Night and they had just garbage on? This could
all the
actually
time.
make a lot of sense. This could make a lot of sense if they use that for these games.
Yeah, it would be good. I can't complain with it. I mean, we got a lot of announcements over the last couple weeks, I guess, for the NHL season, with the start date being January 13th. Obviously, like we just said, the Ducks don't actually play until January 14th. Trade deadline's on April 12th, which will be a little bit of getting used to. We're normally used to having that near the end of February. End of the regular season is May 8th. Expansion draft, which is another wrinkle into the fold this year, is happening on July 21st. The draft 2 days later on July 23rd and 24th, and the free agency on July 28th. What a week that's going to be. Expansion draft, NHL entry draft, and free agency all within a week.
When is the draft? What day?
July 23rd and 24th.
And where is it going to be at? Do you know?
I don't know if they announced yet. They might not be announcing anything because it could be a virtual draft again. It's likely what it's going to be. I can't imagine they're going to have it in person if the entire season can't have fans. I mean, they might decide that at a later date, but I would imagine it's a virtual draft.
I want to go.
Same with the expansion
We'll
draft.
let them know that.
I mean, we're going to have to do a full separate show on the expansion draft at some point. But I think in such a shortened season where, there's only 56 games, so, one game matters a lot more than it does across an entire 82-game season. We're going to see a lot of trades, I think, at that trade deadline before April 12th for teams.
Hope so. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, teams prepping for...
Remember we covered it last year or the year before? It was the year before. And I was like...
Yeah, it was nuts.
That's it.
But it wasn't... It was a lot of moves, but it wasn't like big names, right? It wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like there hasn't been a lot of craziness in a few seasons.
There's already been a few trades. I think Ottawa made a few moves, bringing in some veterans and stuff. I don't think that had anything to do with expansion draft. They bailed Tampa Bay out again. Did you guys see that? I think they took on some salary from Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow they got Mary Gabrick in Tampa now, right?
Yeah,
He's gonna light it up.
He's not actually playing, I don't think.
No, he's not.
No, it's just a
you know what? The funny thing is, if he went there in that roster, he'd probably play well. He probably would.
Yeah.
I mean, because the Senators took Braden Coburn and Cedric Paquette.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And Coburn was just the salary dump that Tampa needed. And they're going to have Kucherov on the LTIR for the entire season.
He'll be back for playoffs. He'll come out of his coffin at playoffs.
Just like Stamkos last year. He'll come in, he'll score. Play one shift, he'll score a goal. And then they'll win the Stanley Cup anyway.
Hands on the cup.
It'll be Stamkos' year this year for missing all of last year. Like, come on. In that division.
Hey, we got a big Pucks and Brews on Thursday, New Year's Eve. There's a lot of NHL we got to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's when Eddie's going to get hammered on shots.
Oh, that's right. Pink Whitney shots?
Yeah, if they have any. I'm worried that, because we're in lockdown now, that the LCBO is going to get absolutely raided over the next couple days, and I'm not going to be able to get anything.
When this show's over, you go down there right now and go get some.
Be a good Canadian, and you go get some Pink Whitney.
Yes. Well, man, tomorrow's going to be nuts. Oh, God. I might go tonight.
Just go first thing in the morning or tonight, man, and get some booze for Thursday. If you don't have booze on New Year's Eve,
I have some here. I just don't have Pink Whitney. That's the thing. Like I have Bacardi, so I have booze, but I don't have Pink Whitney. But we had agreed on Pink Whitney, so
Bacardi Raz.
I actually hate you.
Smear it off.
All right, I'm moving on because.
Okay.
Ducks released their training camp roster today. Literally, I think it was about a couple hours ago now. which was nice because we got to actually see a little bit of a full roster. I think people were going off their team roster on the website, which was what we usually do. But they released it out there. Zegras is on there. Larson, who wasn't listed on the team website, is listed on the training camp roster. Jacob Perreault, Braden Tracy, a couple guys. Those two haven't been able to play a game all year because the OHL and the WHL have been postponed indefinitely because of COVID. So it'd be nice to see them get some action at training camp. The regulars, Milano, Steele, Getzlaff, I almost said Perry, but Heinen. Everybody that we're used to seeing, a few of the AHL guys, Paul Uralski, Letary, a few guys that aren't going to make the team. So they've got, I think it was 39 skaters, not including Zegras and Drysdale, it's 37. You're only allowed 36 skaters and an unlimited amount of goalies, and nobody has been able to find the explanation for what's going on. So whether that means the Ducks are making a trade or somebody is getting bumped off the training camp roster at some point, I don't know. But we at least have a better idea of how this roster is going to shape out. I mean, you can look at that training camp roster and kind of tell who's definitely not going to make the team. But I still think there's about 28 or 29 names in the mix this year, and you can only have a 23-man roster.
Yeah, it's going to be weird looking at any of the training camp updates are going to be strange because they're all going to be coming from the team. Right? There's no reporters, no fans allowed.
Yeah.
So something that's bummed me out. Last year, for whatever reason, the Ducks closed training camp to the public. No idea why. And then this year, for obvious reasons. So it was always fun. Jay and I have been to some. I would skip out of work to go to these things in the middle of the morning and take I'd have a doctor's appointment and go to training camp for 2.5, 3 hours and watch. It's kind of a bummer. It's going to be interesting to see how this information kind of trickles out about how these guys are performing. But do you guys have any guys you would say that are fringe for most that you think are going to make the team?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Sonny Milano, I think, makes it. Henrique, I think he's a lock. Getzlaff's a lock. Sam Steele, Carter Rowney probably should. Silverberg will. Derek Grant will. I think when you look at the borderline guys who will probably get sent down to the AHL or be part of that taxi squad are guys like Andrew Agazzino, Sam Carrick, Vinny Letary, maybe Isaac Linderstrom, Benoit Olivier Gru, Antoine Morin, Chase DeLeo. Jack.
Do you think Heinen makes the squad?
I think he does. All the names we listed are, I think, below on the depth chart than him. Like Antoine Morin's an AHL guy. Braden Tracy, whenever the WHL comes back, will go there. Same with Jacob Perreault, will go back to the OHL. Andrew Poturalski will be AHL as well as Jack Kapaka. There's a lot of guys on this list who will be AHL or taxi squad where, I think when it breaks down to it, the Ducks are going to have about 15 forwards to choose from, with a couple fringe guys on there. On defense, it's kind of the same thing where they'll have about 8 or 9 guys. Gooley will be a kind of a fringe guy. Fowler, Shattenkirk, Lindholm, Manson are locks. Hakanpää's a fringe. I think Juice is a fringe. Larson's a fringe. Drysdale won't likely make the team. He'll be back in the OHL. Curran's a fringe. Walensky's a fringe. Mahura's a fringe. Benoit will be either, AHL or taxi squad. So, I think you can kind of pick off some of the obvious guys, but they're going to have to make some decisions. And we already talked about Zegras a lot today, but he's going to, kind of make it difficult for them as well, depending on how he plays and how he does at training camp.
A lot of those fringe players may also be part of that whole taxi system that they're trying to do this year too. So a lot of those guys that maybe not make the team right out may still be kicking around with the team for maybe a chance with how condensed this season is too.
Let's talk about that right now. Let's talk about what the taxi squad is, because we're going to be saying it here and then not get to it till later in the show. So I think if people are watching or listening and they don't know what the hell that is, in my opinion, in short order, it's a way for owners to get their best players from the AHL, keep them away from that team, away from any sort of COVID-related activity. If it were to happen on the AHL squad, they don't get to practice, don't get to play. They basically sit around and practice with an NHL team but don't play, unless there's an injury or an illness.
You need it.
That's crazy.
I think it can be done, but I understand why they need it, because if there's let's say there's an outbreak in San Diego, and then 3 guys get injured for the Ducks. Well, the Ducks no longer can ice a full roster, and you can't call anybody up from San Diego because there's a COVID outbreak.
It makes sense, but it sucks.
Yeah, it sucks for those guys who are on that practice squad where, some of these guys might only play 10 games at all in the NHL this year, and they're going to be on that taxi squad all year. They can't play, they just have to practice all year, and it depends on who's on that roster.
Doesn't the NFL have a practice squad? That's it? They just have guys that are on the practice squad that get paid to...
I think so.
And they're there in case. That's just kind of how it works. There's no, minor league for the NFL, I know that. But these guys are just... But they get paid a lot more than these dudes do, for sure.
But most of those minor league guys that would normally be playing the AHL, that's usually there for their development. So it's a little bit hard to want to pull those guys off, and the guys that are maybe older in age have to go through waivers, and that means they can get picked off too. And the other thing is it's only 4 to 6, and one of them has to be a goalie. So that's essentially 3 to 5 skaters. And my thought is if this is a COVID-related thing, someone on the team gets COVID, and especially if they're around all the other players, wouldn't you have to quarantine a few of those players anyways? So, I would assume quite a few. And then what good is another 3 or 5 guys going to do? And if they've been around those guys anyways, then at practices, then there's a possibility they had to be quarantined too. So I don't get it. I understand why logistics, I guess. I don't know. Being able to, if you need to call up a guy, you want to make sure they're at least close or around the team. It's a little bit harder doing the traveling during this time. But if it's a COVID because someone on the team's got it, I would just assume a whole bunch of people would have to quarantine for a while because of it.
Yeah, and you have to remember, too, you also have to clear waivers to come in and out of that taxi squad. It's essentially, limbo AHL. It acts like that. You still have to call guys up from waivers. They still have to get sent down through waivers if they're eligible to go onto this taxi squad. So it's not like it's going to be a way for teams to circumvent the cap because they put those in place. Like what a lot of people thought it was going to be in the beginning is, the Ducks could just take, I don't think David Backes is a good example here, but a team could take a guy with a big salary, bury him essentially on the taxi squad because the cap will count as an AHL cap hit, and just leave him on there to kind of circumvent the cap and call some different guys up. But you can't do that because of waivers and the different cap rules that apply with the taxi squad. So it is essentially like the AHL, but these guys can't play there and they have to practice. That's how they're operating this.
So weird.
It's like a ghost AHL team. It's there. They're AHL in every aspect, but you're not really going to play. You might play in the NHL, but only if a whole bunch of things go wrong.
But it totally bones those guys on two-way deals, right? And guys, it robs all those guys of playing time essentially, unless they're regulars, because they're only going to get paid the AHL salary no matter what. Even if they're playing with a big club, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, two-way guys are going to go into that taxi squad. Guys who don't have to clear waivers, and guys who you can pay an AHL salary. That's who's going to make it onto most taxi squads.
Yeah.
Not every team has 4 to 6 of those guys, but most of them are going to be that. And I'll read through the rules quickly if anybody hasn't seen them. Cap Friendly put out a kind of graphic earlier a couple weeks ago that kind of explains the details in depth of this taxi squad. So you can have a minimum of 4 to a maximum of 6 players. Like we said, waivers are required for any players who would require waivers originally to be loaned to the minors. Recalls for NHL games must occur before 5 p.m. Eastern. It excludes goalies if there's less than 2 goalies available to play for that team. 1 goalie is required on the taxi squad for teams with less than 3 goalies on the active roster. The last day of training camp is the first day players can be loaned to the taxi squad. It dissolves when the season ends. And taxi squad members can practice with the NHL team, join team activities, and travel with the team, although it's not required. But they can't practice or join activities other than those with the NHL team. So like we said, they can't play or practice with the AHL team. It has to be strictly in that bubble that they're forming for the NHL team. And then the cap hit was the big one, is the effect on the team's cap hit while on the taxi squad is equivalent to if the player were playing in the minors. And it puts in brackets here a buried cap hit. So yeah, like we said, it does kind of activate as a makeshift AHL limbo space for these players.
It makes it rough, honestly. Because if you have a bad stint, and a lot of times what happens is there are guys that get called up and because they're killing it in the AHL, or guys that are on two-way deals that are playing the NHL, and aren't really on fire. They send them back down to the A to get some fire on them, put some points on them. They can't do that this year. They're screwed. Can't do it. So it's a minor thing, I think. I don't think it's going to be super major. The season's only 56 games. We all know that there's like a 99% chance, a 98% chance our boys aren't going to the playoffs. So this is a good season to see where a lot of our young guys stand, because we're going to have to pull up only a few of them and see when they rotate in and out. We don't have like this huge plethora of players to choose from on a nightly basis. We only have a small handful.
Last couple things to note here from the training camp roster. A couple new numbers this season. Sonny Milano moved to 12 to give Kevin Shattenkirk number 22. Sam Steele reverted back to his number from junior, his number 23. Trevor Zegras is listed as a number 46. So I think originally he was like 54, but the Ducks always like to give those young players high numbers. So he has 46 going into training camp. Benoit Olivier has number 50. Braden Tracy has number 56. Jacob Perreault has number 64. Like we said, Shattenkirk has 22, and Jamie Drysdale 34, and lastly Cody Curran with 44. And Lucas Dostal's number 1. So I don't remember the last time the Ducks had a number 1. Was it Hiller? Yeah, it probably was Hiller.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Didn't even think, he just knew.
That's why I
know goalies.
It's for the goalie questions. Oh, and while we were chatting, Jamie Drysdale picked up a point tonight.
Prior to that, I think it was Ron Tugner.
Jamie Drysdale got a point tonight?
Quinton Byfield has 5, so he matched Zegras. So that rivalry, the Kings and Ducks rivalry in the future with Zegras versus Byfield, that's going to be something.
As long as it's not a physical matchup, it'll be fun to watch.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see. But Byfield has, I think, 2 goals and 3 assists, so the exact same night as Zegras did. Canada's beating Switzerland 9-0 tonight, so not a...
I was going to say Switzerland was winning 6-5, but...
All right. Well, let's get to the goalie part, because we just kind of finished off with a little bit of goalie stuff there. Ducks re-signed Ryan Miller, which we felt like was eventually coming. The Ducks needed a backup goalie to just be eligible to play this year. You need 3 goalies on the roster. They had already John Gibson and Anthony Stolarz, so Miller comes back for probably his last year, 1 year at $1 million. I think he's 3 wins away from Dominic Hasek, so... he definitely, as a personal thing, wants to get back and try and get that. So now the Ducks have their backup situation sorted with Gibson, Miller, and Stolarz in the NHL per the 3 goalie rule. How do you guys feel going into the season with those 3?
As good as I did going into last year. I mean, Gibby should be his elite self. We'll just see if the rest of the team can kind of help him out again. Last season he wasn't as lights out, but the team was worse last year than it was the year before that. So Miller is a guy you're always going to be able to rely on. The condensed season and so many back-to-backs, short order, kind of makes sense to have him in there, because even when he came in last year and did that, he was always good no matter what anyways. He rarely had a bad game, so he at least gives him a chance to win. I think he's also 13 wins away from 400. I don't think he'll get that unless he goes lights out on all his
starts. We're a playoff team if Ryan Miller wins 13 games, so we're going undefeated.
Saying, like if he gets hot, they just kind of keep riding him, and he puts in 2 shutouts here, and then they keep him going for 3 or 4 games and see what happens. But so that's good. And Stolarz is he's pretty close to being that backup guy, so it'd be, I guess, good, since he'll be on that taxi team that he'll get to practice with the team a little bit more, learn from those guys, and make kind of an easier transition next year.
Did you guys see his tweet about coming back?
I did. I didn't read it. What did he end up saying?
He said, tried out retirement for 9 months. Thanks, COVID. Decided I wasn't feeling it. Happy to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all knew he was coming back at some point.
Where do you guys think his save percentage fills in at? He had a 9.28 his first year in Anaheim in 2017-2018. He played 28 games, played 20 games in 2018-2019 with a 9.12. And then last season, we all know how awesome that was. He played 23 games and had a 9.07. Do we see a 9.20 Miller, or do we see more like a 9.15 Miller?
Yeah, I think a 9.15 Miller would be a good year from him with the way this goes.
Somewhere between the 91 and a half save percentage. I feel that's kind of in his wheelhouse. It'll depend how how the Ducks jump out again. They're usually notorious for slow starts, and if that's the case, then they can kind of get buried pretty early, and things get a little bit depressing. And when teams are depressed, they don't exactly hustle as much as they should. They don't really make coverage as much. They just kind of go through the motions. So, but he's an elite goalie. I give him credit for getting as good of a save percentage last year as he did. So,
Is that one of your favorite stats to tell other people, Jay, about goaltenders? It's one of mine. When I'm speaking about save percentage, everyone's like, "What do you mean? The guy who saves 91% is not good, and the guy who saves 92% is really good,
Yeah,
and then the guy who saves 92.5 is like insanely elite."
Yeah. He's that top
You got
goalie.
It's funny because we don't
Yeah.
do that with shooting percentage or anything like that. Like the guy
No.
who shoots 17 or 15%, is he really good? The guy who shoots 9% is. We're arguing over like 0.5% here for goaltenders. Basically, like
Yeah, goalies don't shoot that well, so.
yeah, 91.5 is an average goaltender now, and if you're at 92, you're one of the best goalies in the league. And they're like Pat said, if you're at 92.5, then you're probably the top goaltender in the league that season. Not much of a margin
if
for
you're
error.
hitting 9.3 at any time, that's insanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Lucas Dostal did in Finland, and he'll be over
Ooh.
for San Diego this season playing with the Roman Durny and Ole Eriksson. I'm not sure how that's going to work
How
out.
fast does he get called up to the team, you think?
No.
Do you think he gets anything?
No, I think because they got the three goalies already there, well established. With Dostal, even though he's done really well, he's done in the Finnish league and smaller rinks around here. So they want to just see if he can adapt to that first, and if he can, and he's able to do well in there, then sky's the limit following seasons. But I don't think they're going to really rush that goalie just because he's had a really great season in a Finnish, the Finnish league. Not to take anything away from him, but it's always kind of the concern. It's like, okay, you did good here, but this is going to be kind of a different game altogether. Let's see how you react to that.
This was probably the perfect scenario for the Ducks in terms of their goaltenders, with the NHL saying you have to have 3 on your NHL roster, because if Miller came back and you could have 2, and Stolarz was able to go down to the AHL, he probably would have been starting over Lucas Dostal. Now, with Stolarz having to be a part of the NHL roster and not allowed to go down to the AHL, Lucas Dostal likely starts there. I don't see how Ole Eriksson or Roman Durny have a leg up. Both have played ECHL or overseas. None of them really have that much AHL experience, and when you look at how well Dostal's done in Finland, I think he's the front runner to be the starter there. Even if he does well, barring injury, there's no benefit to have him being the third goaltender in Anaheim. I don't think you bounce him in front of Miller. You wouldn't have brought Miller back for that, and no way he jumps in front of Gibson this year. So this is a perfect scenario for him to get accustomed to playing in North America, where you can comfortably say, yep, he's got a full season in San Diego. There's no chance of you coming up this year. Focus on your hockey in San Diego. Next year's a whole new question with Miller gone, and Stolarz not really cementing a backup job. Dostal, if he does well in San Diego, could walk right into the Ducks' backup job next year. And there's no concerns this year of limiting his development by, calling him up too early or not calling him up with the way the rules are set.
That's a good point.
He only has to focus on being a top AHL goalie. That's all he's got to worry about.
Yeah, well, he's one. I think other than Zegras, he's probably the one I'm most excited to see how he does this year. The way he kind of transfers over from the European game to the AHL level, I think he should have no problems. I think the way he plays, it should be fairly easy for him to come over and play well, and he's done well on smaller rinks in the past as well. So I think outside of Zegras, whether he plays with the Ducks or with the AHL, like Dostal is the guy I'm looking forward to seeing, because like we said already, like
Eddy,
he could be the guy next year.
Have you been to AHL games?
I don't think I think if I've been to one, it would have been back when the Bulldogs in Hamilton were Montreal's farm team. I think I might have.
You ever get a chance, go. It's especially a rival game.
Yeah.
Awesome. And they're nasty as
The
hell.
only ones I have close to me here is the Marlies, and if I'm driving to Toronto to begin with, I don't think I'm paying $20 to see the Marlies play. Maybe if San Diego comes to town sometime when COVID's done, maybe I'll take a trip down there to see San Diego play.
The Gulls run a couple of years ago, I went to a game with Jimmy, and it was fight after fight, and then it was fans throwing stuff at the opposing team on the ice, food, sodas. I remember my kid got hit by soda. Dude, it was just people were throwing food. It was out of control. Out of control. I could be wrong, but it might have been the Barracuda. I think it was the Barracuda, San Jose's AHL team. It was nasty, man, but it was fun. Those games are insane. Never completely different atmosphere than an NHL game. Like, you think you see drunk people at an NHL game? Go to San Diego when it says college night, and it's like like $3 or $4 beers or whatever it is, and it's awesome, man. Go to an NHL game. It's worth it.
It's like Slapshot.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. These guys are nuts.
Throwing shit.
They don't give a shit at all about each other's well-being either. They'll fight anybody. They'll hit anybody. They'll be dirty. I don't know how players make it from there to the NHL.
Yeah, it's a completely different. It's a tough league to play in, to do well in that league. I mean, you've got a lot of guys who are career AHLers who are, the guys who can't cut it in the NHL anymore. They're big physical guys who like to fight, or you've got some guys who are just trying to make their way, a little bit later development in terms of skill level, and they're trying to make their way to the NHL. It's a tough league to kind of grind your way out of unless you're a top prospect and you're kind of just playing down there because of roster limitations.
It's insane, man. A lot of times you see the top AHL scorer doesn't crack an NHL lineup, which is insane.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
He'll come to the NHL and look like a less than a fourth liner. Just won't even be able to cut it. But he's dominating the level below. Yeah,
it's weird.
Quentin Byfield.
Are we going to cap the show with your boy? Is that what you held on to this?
I did.
The news that came out today?
I did.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
He's a Canadian boy.
Of course, after Zegras puts up a 5-point night, the Kings and their Kings fans have to come out and say Quentin Byfield put up 6. So that's how it is. But yes, I did save the Perry news for the end of the show.
How convenient.
Corey Perry signed a 1-year contract with the Montreal Canadiens a couple days ago. He's going to make $750,000 from Montreal and about $6.6 million from the Ducks this year. So
I was going to say he's making over $7 million this year.
Yeah, playing in the Canadian division.
Nice.
In all honesty, I think Perry finishes his career in Canada. He's moved back to London. He doesn't live out in California anymore. It makes sense for him during COVID to kind of want to stay close to home. I think Toronto might have probably been his number one destination, being that close to home. But other than that, Ottawa and Montreal are your next two options. And
he said today that the Habs were his favorite team growing up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't see why having
whatever team takes you.
Yeah, whatever team takes you right now. This is my favorite team growing up. So.
I mean, they've done a number, right? They got Josh Anderson, Jake Allen, Joel Edmondson, Tyler Toffoli, Michael Furlick, and Corey Perry were all brought in this year, and they extended Jeff Petrie and Brendan Gallagher. Not bad work by Bergevin.
Are you being sarcastic? I really hope you're being sarcastic because they gave up Max Domi to bring in Josh Anderson and then paid Josh Anderson $5.5 million.
It's not going to be an awesome team.
No.
Good thing they have that, the middling goaltender, Carey Price. Everyone thinks is the greatest thing.
Corey Perry will wear number 94, by the way, because number 10 was retired. I think it was Felix who put out all the different numbers that he's worn in the past. In Montreal, like 5 of them couldn't be worn because they're either retired or worn by a current Montreal Canadiens player. So he goes back to 94, which he wore in London. That was the last time he wore that number. I don't know if he wore it at all with the Ducks. I feel like he did at one point, like his first couple games he wore 94. Maybe I'm wrong, but
no, I don't think so. I don't think I don't think any Ducks player has gone up that high.
Yeah.
No, Fedorov.
Sure they have.
Fedorov.
Yeah, Fedorov 91.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like they usually do higher numbers, but I don't think they go all the way into the 90s for the rookies. And then didn't he settle on I can't remember. I know his number was high, and so was Getzlaf's, and I think Penner's when they first came in. But I thought they were all 61. He was 61.
Yeah, Perry was 61. That's what it was. Yeah. But apparently that was taken too. So he goes to 94. But how do you think Perry does? To be fair, he didn't have a great season in Dallas, but he had a pretty good playoffs with the.
Can you guys name the only other 2 players in Montreal history who wore number 94?
Probably not.
No.
Are they recent or are they old numbers?
They're pretty recent. No, they're pretty recent. Like as in the 2000s.
Did Kovalev wear 94?
Yeah. Kovalev. No, he was 81 or something.
I don't know who.
I'll give you the one you're not going to get, which is Tom Pyatt.
Dude, that's the one I was going to say.
And then the other one, I mean, if you're a Habs fan, I guess you would know. Eddie's a giant Canadian fan, so he should know.
He loves
Who
Canadians.
is it?
Yannick Perreault, we're number 94.
Neat.
Oh, I'm on mute. Jacob Perreault's dad.
You went on
Did
mute.
Galchenyuk wear 94 in Montreal?
I don't think
That's
so.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
Over under, Corey Perry gets 20 points in a shortened season.
Oh, under.
That's
56 games.
Under.
That's an under.
Under. I'm going over.
Well,
I'm
what do you
gonna-
have? What do you have over at Dallas? Didn't he have like 24? Or
In 82 games, right?
No, they didn't play 82 games last season.
Yeah, but now he's going to be rejuvenated, healthy. He's going to feel like it's
Rejuvenated and
2008
healthy,
again.
huh?
That's what you said when you get to Dallas. You're looking at the Dallas quote from last year.
How many points did he
It's
have?
good to go.
Now I gotta find out before we end the show here. Corey Perry with the Dallas Stars.
I had like 21 or 24
He
points. or something.
had. We got to scroll through. 21 in 57. Okay, so you know what?
Yeah, there you go. So about the same, but I would say he's
He
under.
also
I'm going over. I say he
also
gets
had
25.
9 in 27 in the playoffs. So that would put him at 18 in 54. So he's going to be close. He's going
Point
to be
every
close.
3
I think
games.
he's between 15 and 25. It depends on the role he gets in Montreal. That's the thing.
I'll say he gets 22 points.
I don't think his body's going to hold up on a condensed schedule.
He's got 9 months. He just
Yeah, then he's
rejuvenated
going to
his
come in
knee.
and play like 8
Yeah.
back-to-backs and a bunch of 2-game stints.
Oh wait, no, he's got less
He
than
should
that.
have
He played
9
20.
months.
Yeah.
He's
Dumb.
gonna. I think he's gonna finish with 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So under.
So Eddie, if you're wrong, do we wash out the plane ticket I'm never going to buy you because of COVID?
Yeah.
No, what you have to do is you have to take for every point you're off, you have to take a shot of what Pink Whitney.
You almost said Ray Whitney, didn't you?
No, I almost said White Whitney, and I was thinking Ryan.
I
White.
don't want a White Whitney. Jeez.
And that's the show. But we'll come back on Thursday night or Thursday afternoon, right? We're doing an early show,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before Trevor Zegras tears Team Sweden apart.
3:30 or 4 o'clock again. We're on the same time we're doing this one today. We did it today, started at 4:30, maybe around the same time. But that'll be a Patreon only show. That'll be our Pucks and Brews where we drink, but Jason and I drink all the time.
Yep.
Eddie doesn't because he's Canadian and Canadians don't drink. Only thing they do drink is maple syrup. That's it.
Yep.
So,
Maple syrup shots.
and the reason why I did the show early today,
Not out of the Stanley Cup, oddly enough.
yeah, it's been a long time since Canada's had the cup.
It's been a quarter of a century since that one. But
It's the only. You know why? It's because they never win silver. They only win gold.
they're allergic to it, I
They're
guess.
allergic to
It's,
it. That's
it's
exactly
bronze
what
or
it is.
nothing.
We'll come back after the World Junior Championship is done, and we'll see.
Oh, I hope it's Canada, USA. And I hope Zegras scores a million goals and you guys lose. I hope it's the best.
He scores a bunch of Michigans, not lacrosse goals.
They're clearly
Yeah,
the two best
they're
teams in the
goaltender.
tournament. So if they meet at all, I hope it's in the finals and not in like a semi or
Yes.
something.
That's
Yeah.
like what the NHL does, gives you the best game in the middle.
They're right in the middle, where no one cares.
Seriously. Yeah, they're both blowing everybody out right now. I think Canada's up 10-0 right now. The U.S. Canada won 10-0. U.S. won 7. The last game for U.S.
Yeah,
was 11.
but Switzerland, Czech Republic.
Yeah, that was an impressive win, but I think the Czechs used all their gas yesterday in a 2-0 win over Russia or the other day. So
Please.
Prior to the first period, they played their very boring hockey that worked
Yeah.
for Russia.
we'll see.
All right, everyone. That's it for us tonight. For you Patreon peeps, we'll see you guys on Thursday for New Year's Eve special. We'll watch Eddie get drunk off of something, either Bacardi Raz or Pink Whitney or Michelob Ultra or whatever he's going to have. But we'll be doing
Modelo's.
something. Modelo's. I'm actually proud of you for saying that because that's the last thing I thought you were going to say.
Yeah,
Now I have to come with Modelo's.
All right, everyone.
our boys growing up.
No, now you have to do Pink Whitney.
I can't
Yeah.
guarantee it will be in stock, but I will try.
Get off the computer and go.
And I know we said buy like 3 times,
I know.
but you have Bacardi. Go to the store and get Country Time lemonade powder. Mix it in a glass with your vodka, and then you have.
Snort it. You got to snort
I
it.
guess then I have pink.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's a quick pick me up in case you get tired.
Great.
All right, everyone, we're signing off.
See you guys.